there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 young adult standalone books that really surprised me. But before we go ahead and get on into the books, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box below for links to all of my social medias, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways. So I just did my 5 adult books that really surprised me, and I did include some first books in a series on that list, but these are all YA standalones. If you guys want me to do like a video of a YA series that really surprised me, let me know in the comments, because when I was making this list, I had like a whole bunch of books that were in series, and I was like, no, I'll just do standalones. So if you're interested in seeing one about series or books in specific series that surprised me, then definitely let me know. But these are all standalones as of right now. These books are in no particular order, and the first one is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This book was her first published book. It's a standalone fantasy, and it's very short. And this book did not get like the best reviews. However, I personally really liked it. In this book, we're following a girl named Isabel who is a painter, and she lives in this world where fairies exist and they do interact with humans. Fairies are unable to create things. So like they're unable to paint or write or compose music or bake. They aren't able to dabble at all in like artistic talents. So they often seek out humans to do those things for them. And Isabel is a painter, and one day this fae comes to her and he asks her to paint his portrait, and she does, but she does in a manner that offends him because she makes him look like he has human emotions. And because of this, he ends up whisking her away to the fae land for her to stand trial for this crime of painting him with human emotion. And there's a couple reasons that I like this book so much. Number one, the writing is so beautiful, so whimsical. Like it's right on the line of being like purpley, but like not too purpley. And she was just so atmospheric in how she wrote this world, and especially when the two characters were traveling. A lot of people said that this book had insta-love, and I personally disagree. Yes, they definitely were attracted to each other at first, Isabel and then the fairy guy, I can't remember his name, Rook. But then Isabel even recognizes that was attraction, that wasn't love. And not only that, but Isabel actually starts to see Rook without his fairy glamour on and learns to love him even though he doesn't look like initially how she thought. And like that's an awesome theme of loving someone for whom they are rather than what they look like. So we have like some pretty, deep fundamental themes in this book, in addition to all of the imagery and story that really, really gripped me. I will say the ending was a tad bit weak, and I think that's where it mostly got people, but if you can look past that, I definitely recommend An Enchantment of Ravens. Then we have Letters to the Lost by Bridget Kemmer, which is a YA contemporary, which is not a genre that I read very often, and the fact that this is one of my favorite YA books should say something to you. And I have read Bridget Kemmer's fantasy books, and I love her. She's pretty much an auto-buy author for me. But in this book, we're following Juliet, and Juliet has just lost her mother, and she basically writes letters to her mother and leaves them at her gravesite. But then one day, someone starts writing back to her, and it ends up being this boy, Declan, that she goes to school with, and they don't kind of learn about that for a while. And I just love this book for a couple reasons, but it's a book that explores grief, because not only is Juliet exploring grief and dealing with grief, but so is Declan. And the fact that the two of them are able to confide in each other almost anonymously, really kind of opens up the chance to be vulnerable, to have someone that you can talk to about anything and know that they are not going to judge you. There's going to be no repercussions, especially if that person is dealing with something that you are also dealing with. Having someone that you can have that shared emotion with, I think that's very strong, and that in this book, that's exactly what happened. And then you also have the theme of judging a book by its cover, because Declan and Juliet, like I said, go to school together, and Declan has like a horrible reputation, and Juliet kind of has to learn to look beyond that to the person underneath. I feel like for such a short book, it really packs so much emotion and just so much into the story. But I personally just loved the anonymous talking between Declan and Juliet, and the fact that they were able to share so much of themselves and their hearts and their feelings with one another before they actually met in real life. And then we have Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This is an Alice in Wonderland based story. It is actually the origin story of the Queen of Hearts. So it's a good origin story. And in this book, we are following Catherine, or the Queen of Hearts, and she was not always evil. She actually was wanting to be a baker, and she loves baking and everything to do with baking. And her parents actually kind of force her into, or try to force her into, an arranged marriage with the king. And that kind of sets Catherine down this path of trying to find her own way and rebelling against what they want. And in the meantime, she ends up falling in love with a guy named Jess. And then something happens with their courtship and their romance, and it kind of snowballs into all of these bad things happening that leads Catherine to becoming angry and bitter and evil and turning into the actual Queen of Hearts. The reason that I love this book so much is, number one, it's in the world of Alice in Wonderland, which is always a lot of fun. But the fact that we have like such a sweet, good girl, and all of this bad stuff happens to her, just how she changes into such a monster because of that was just fascinating to me. And I really did like the relationship in this between Catherine and Jess. I really liked Jess as a character, and Stephenie Meyer wrote like really good angst between the two of them and romance, and I really enjoyed it. And I really felt like at the end that Catherine was justified in acting the way that she did. So it's kind of like you're rooting for the villain, which doesn't really happen that often. So I feel like Stephenie Meyer just created a villain that you could actually feel sorry for and sympathize with. So another one I really recommend. Next, we have Hunted by Megan Spooner. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's a standalone. We follow a main character named Yeva, and Yeva's father is a hunter, and he has been training her to be a hunter. And then one day he goes missing, so she decides to go after him, and she actually encounters the Beast. And the Beast is not friendly, and he realizes that she is a hunter and kind of forces her hand because he needs a hunter. But what he's hunting for is very, very strange and odd. And there's a lot of reasons that I like this book. Number one, it is very slow burn. So if you're looking for like a really fast-paced, action-packed, plot-driven type of story, this is not it. I also really like the setting. It was incredibly atmospheric. It was cold. It was in the forest. It was wintry. Great winter read. And then I really liked the theme of wanderlust, because our main character, you know, had a chance to stay at home, had a chance to marry and have a good life to someone that she actually did like. And she just felt a calling towards something different and something else, and she always followed that calling. And at the end of the book, she recognizes that it's wanderlust, and that's okay. And she and the Beast actually embark on kind of this journey to address the curse that the Beast is under. I really can't give too much away without spoiling it, but just know that this is a really good retelling in my opinion. The romance is good, the atmosphere and setting are awesome. The little twists that have to do with the curse and how the curse is broken is really different from any other Beauty and the Beast adaptation I have read or seen. So definitely recommend Hunted if you like retellings. And then we have House of Salt and Sorrow by Aaron A. Craig. And this book, oh my God, this book is scary. It's creepy. It's dark. I was not expecting that going into this. But House of Salt and Sorrow is another retelling, actually. It's based off of the 12 Dancing Princesses by the Brothers Grimm, and I actually had never read that before, and I'd heard that this had elements of that in it, so I think either before I started reading this or while I started reading this, I just read through that story real quick. So really the only elements that are similar is in this book, our main character and her sisters sneak off at night to enter like this magical realm to go to this ball and go dancing, and that is essentially what happens in the 12 Dancing Princesses, but other than that, there's really no similarities. But in this book, we follow Annalie, and Annalie's family is well-to-do, and they live on this manor that is right on the ocean, hence House of Salt and Sorrow. And she has a lot of siblings, a lot of sisters, and slowly her sisters have been dying. And Annalie, it's going like in chronological kind of from oldest to youngest, so Annalie is like coming up next. And she starts to investigate exactly what the heck is going on, because all of her sisters are dying in different ways. There's really no correlation, but like, it's just strange. Then Annalie starts to have all of these visions, and the visions are what are creepy, because she starts to like see and have interactions with her dead sisters. She realizes that her other sisters are sneaking out and follows them to kind of see if what they are sneaking out to and who they're dancing with has something to do with their deaths. And there's just this whole mystery that goes along in this book. It had me me gripped from the first page. It's atmospheric, you have this creepy seaside manor, you have ghosts, and then you have like a fairy tale element and a romance. So there's just so much in this book. I do recommend like reading it around the Halloween time if you're looking for something that's creepy and will keep you on your toes, but this one definitely surprised me. Okay, you guys, that is it for 5 standalone young adult books that really surprised me. Let me know in the comments some young adult books that surprised you or just books in general, and I will see y'all in another video soon. Goodbye!